Can you guess what I've been doing the last few days? I bet you can't. It's not obvious at all. Of course, it is Pure Fiction. Pure Fiction is the latest, shall we say, endgame content, or just general content that's been added to the game, and it has absolutely breathed such a beautiful breath of fresh air into this game. Not only just for gameplay in general, but also for a vast number of characters. So with Pure Fiction, it has honestly just done so much for the game, which is surprising because it is pretty much just Memory of Chaos, except relatively endless and with a score rather than deal as much DPS as fast as possible. It's still deal as much DPS pretty much as fast as possible, but it's in a different sense. Because now we have to do it on an AoE basis, and that has basically just gone on and said everyone of the Erudition path is now incredibly useful. So Pure Fiction has essentially just made an entire path of characters so much more viable than they ever used to be. Himiko, who admittedly is a very fun character, I really enjoy Himiko. She was someone I was building in the background, but I was in no rush to sort of get done, just because she wasn't super useful all the time compared to some other units. In Pure Fiction, she's basically a must. With how often you're doing break effects and how often she can follow up on that, it's insane. In the earlier levels, if I remember correctly, every time someone ulted and everything got broken, she would do a follow-up attack and then do it again and then do it again, and it was just constant and it was lovely and it was beautiful and it's so very satisfying to watch. But with Pure Fiction, it means that so many other characters that may not do the biggest damage in the world can still be incredibly viable. I think there was a time I paired Juyi with Himiko. My Juyi is nowhere near complete. It was still a great time. I was still surprisingly happy with the performance. Argenti. My Argenti is nowhere near complete. Argenti, I don't know what I'm doing with you. I'm really sorry, but he is an absolute monster in Pure Fiction. The man just ults, everything explodes, and then he gets his ult again, and then everything explodes again. It's wonderful. Jingyun, a character that I feel as time has gone on, people have said he's not nearly as good as everyone thought he was at the start. And now that we've got Runmei out and, you know, now that we have Pure Fiction, Jingyun is way up there in terms of just usage. Jinglu, obviously Jinglu is pretty much great for everything. Let's not talk about that. Kafka is a character that's useful pretty much primarily for dot teams, and yet here she is in Pure Fiction, still just as useful because she can just ult all the time and it is wonderful. And in Pure Fiction, you don't even need a healer half the time or a tank. You can just go full DPS, and as long as you've got someone to create enough skill points for you, and as long as you're killing everything fast enough, you won't need to heal anything anyway, because as long as you get over the threshold of 3 stars, it doesn't matter what your score is anymore. Getting the max of 80 literally does nothing for you other than bragging rights, I guess. And then we also have characters like Herta. Herta is a character I've always wanted to sort of go out of my way to build, but I've never got around to it because there's not been enough time getting enough materials and resources to build one character that has just been released and then also do Herta at the same time and then do the next character that comes out. I just don't have enough resources to build Herta at the minute. Herta is one of those characters that currently is excelling in Pure Fiction. I think most people that are playing Pure Fiction right now are using Herta to some degree because she's free. She's got a ton of her Eidolons done for free already, and she's just so incredibly useful with her follow-up and her ult. It's like she's designed for Pure Fiction, or at the very least people have made it so that she is used for Pure Fiction. Herta is a great demonstration of a character that once upon a time wasn't, you know, she wasn't great. At one point in the game, she was considered probably one of the worst characters for one reason or another, and I think it's because her kit just wasn't particularly complex compared to other characters. But now in Pure Fiction, you don't need the complexity because she just does her kit so consistently that her damage is surprisingly strong, and she is actually a really solid Pure Fiction unit. And of course, we've also got someone like Serval, who, again, absolutely thrives in something like this, where there is just a bunch of units, you put on a bunch of dots, and then the dots explode, and then the units explode, and then just everyone dies. And I imagine the same can be said for Sampo. Pretty much anyone with Erudition has been given the strongest. It's not even really a buff because they've not gotten stronger as a character. They've just found a niche for them where they are so incredibly strong, and that niche is pure fiction. And I think that's what's so exciting about Honkai Star Rail, is that they've added content that has allowed characters that may have otherwise been considered bad or not as good as they originally were for other content. They've basically just said, here you go, here's a game mode for those characters that you wouldn't normally use, but in this game mode are actually absolute monsters. And that's pure fiction down to a T. It's allowed so many characters to get some spotlight and attention, and combine that with the fact that Runmei is now out and is absolutely insanely broken for pretty much every character in the game. Pure Fiction is a great addition to the game, and I'm very happy to see it stay. Mainly just because it gives me an excuse to use Himiko all the time, because I love watching her do follow-up attacks. It is very satisfying. And combine that with Zhu Yi and you've just got a fun time. I don't know what it is. I really like Himiko and Zhu Yi together. There's something about their weird synergy that I find very appealing. But anyway, that's all I really wanted to say. I just kind of wanted to gush about Pure Fiction a little bit. It's a really fun game mode. I'm really glad they added it. It's completely breathed new life into so many different characters. And characters that you would consider originally just not being very useful now have such a prominent place in the game's meta now that they're not going to be benched for quite a while, which is great. I love that for them. And it means everyone that ever built Herta finally is incredibly valid for doing so. I know Herta was pretty solid anyway, and people were making her work in multiple different ways, but now we have the game mode for her, and it is pure fiction. And at some point I will build her and see how that goes. But yeah, for that though, I think I have said all I really wanted to say. I just wanted to say Pure Fiction, real good. Highly recommend. Anyway, with that, I must say my goodbyes. Thank you for those that stuck around to the end. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And until next time, where hopefully we'll get something just as exciting as this. Who knows? We shall see. I know we're meant to be getting more levels, which I'm not looking forward to, because the fact that Auto is struggling on level 4 for me is not a great sign. I may have to actually start playing the game, which is a scary thought. But yeah. Anyway, I've been James, the mayor of JamessTown, and until next time, goodbye.